Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Crate Digging with Carter. This is episode 2 of my Tone Poet Review series for February 2026. Today, I will be reviewing this month's 2 records from the Blue Note Tone Poet series. Record number 1, Bennie Green, Back on the Scene. Record number 2, Lee Morgan, City Lights. I will be reviewing it based on 4 different categories for each record, and then giving my overall score out of 10 for each record, based on whether I recommend them or not, what I like about them, what I'm not a huge fan of. So let's go ahead and jump right into record number 1, Bennie Green, Back on the Scene. Now, this record here was released in 1958, and it has Bennie Green as the headliner on there. He plays trombone. So I'm going to start by talking about the design of this record and the presentation of the package. So I really love the presentation of this record. I think this has a great photo on the front. I love the text. I love the liner notes on the back, and it has some great session photos on the inside. Now, some things I want to highlight that I really enjoy about this is I like what they did with the cover here. I think they did some great work, Reed Miles, with the shadows. You got this shadow running down from where he points, going right across the body, creating some good line work. He's pointing up at his name, at the title on here, which I think is really cool as well. I also appreciate the rhyme in the title, Bennie Green, Back on the Scene. I also appreciate that it's Bennie Green, and it's got this kind of green hue, this shade here. It gives the impression of kind of a more relaxed, earthy, bluesy vibe, which this record definitely is. So I think they knocked it out of the park with the presentation, both Reed Miles back when this first came out, and then Tone Poet, Joe Harley and team recreating this for the Tone Poet series. I think they did an excellent job, and I really enjoy this. Super excited to have another Reed Miles design in here. I know last month's Tone Poets were not designed by Reed Miles, and this one is. So that is great to me as well. So for presentation, I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Really enjoy the presentation here. Now, let's get into the music. So, who's on this record? We've got Bennie Green on trombone, as I mentioned. We've got Charlie Roos on tenor sax. He, of course, is known for playing with the Thelonious Monk for over a decade. You've got Joe Knight on piano, George Tucker on bass, and Louis Hayes on drums. So I think an unusual lineup. I don't see this lineup a lot on a lot of Blue Note records, but I think they work together really well. Joe Knight on piano, didn't know anything about, but I think he really adds a lot on here. George Tucker on bass and Louis Hayes on drums do a lot of good work as well. And they kind of create this Latin feel in the first half of the record on side A, which I thought was really nice as well. So let's get into some standout tracks. So one of them I really enjoyed is track number 2, Melba's Mood. It's a little bit of a slower track. I don't want to say ballad so much, but it's a great track. The rhythm section keeps things driving, but Bennie Green really kind of slows down and has this emotional solo throughout, which I think is really cool. Bennie Plays the Blues is another standout on the B side for me. Picks up the tempo a little bit, really gets into some of that blues side of hard bop, as you'd suggest. Some great solos on there from Bennie Green and Charlie Roos as well. And those two really kind of play off each other. They got a little bit different style, so it balances out the record really well. You got the punchier side of Charlie Roos and the more laid back, kind of melodic side of Bennie Green. This record doesn't have anything groundbreaking on it. This wasn't, very influential and led to, changes in the jazz scene or anything like this. But this is just a classic, hard bop record, relaxed. Bennie Green came out of the swing era and adapted into the hard bop area, bringing a lot of that melody, that blues feel into things. So I really enjoy this. I like jazz trombonists a lot, and I was excited to see a Tone Poet release featuring a jazz trombonist. I didn't know anything about Bennie Green before, but I've spun this record probably 3 or 4 times since I've got it already, and each time I really enjoy listening to it. So I got a kick out of the music on here. So musically, I'm giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. Just my personal preference, saying that I really enjoyed this record here. Now, getting into approachability, this record is highly approachable. You can put this on at dinner, have some friends over, put it in the background. Everyone's going to enjoy this. This is nothing too deep or anything out there that someone might have a hard time listening to it. So for approachability, I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10 on approachability. Very easy to listen to. And then finally, value. Is this a great value or not? And I did some research, did some digging. There were not many reissues of Benny Green back on the scene. There was the original issue in 1958, and since then there were a few reissues in the 80s in Japan. I think there was maybe one in the 2000s in the United States. So this record is really hard to find. Original pressings go for over $400, and that's kind of in a VG condition. So for me, this is a great value. There's no competition with repressings. So this really stands out, and I would say if you want this record, this is the way to get it. So I'm giving value on this one a 9 out of 10. It is possible to get one of those Japanese repressings, and there are some originals sold currently on Discogs, but you're gonna have to pay a pretty penny to get an original. So what does that leave us overall? Overall, Benny Green back on the scene. I'm given an 8.5 out of 10. Is it essential for a jazz collection? No. Is it a great addition? Absolutely, especially if you like blues, if you like hard bop, and if you like that more kind of laid back melodic jazz. This is a way to go. Check this one out. Benny Green's unique voice is really cool and a great part of my collection. Alrighty, let's get into our second release. This is City Lights by Lee Morgan. Let's jump into the presentation. So, I'm trying to hold this record up here so you can kind of see the album artwork. The album artwork on here is really cool. It's done by Reed Miles again, and it's honestly some of my favorite artwork. If you were able to see this, you would kind of see this layered cityscape with neon signs and Lee Morgan sitting down here in the corner. I think he's got just kind of relaxing, looking up into all of the lights above him, really showing the city lights. But if you'll notice, you can't see anything I described because of what I'm assuming is maybe an unfortunate manufacturing error. And this is hitting all of them. There's some comments on Discogs explaining similar issues as well. So it had, the original had a really cool image on here. And if you hold it in the light and tilt it the right way, you can see that really cool image. But unfortunately, if you have this on the shelf on display, it just looks like a dark record with maybe some red smudges here and there, which is really, really unfortunate. That being said, you open it up here, you get some great session photos as always. You've got some great liner notes on the back. But for presentation, I'm going to have to knock this down quite a few points just because you can't see this awesome cover. I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10 on presentation. Now, let's jump into the music. So this was released in 1958, led by Lee Morgan when he was only 19 years old. So very early in the career of Lee Morgan. But this is still a full-fledged, really well-done album. So we got Lee Morgan on trumpet, Curtis Fuller on trombone, George Coleman on tenor and alto sax, Ray Bryant on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Taylor on drums. So a really solid lineup on there. And I just want to shout out the inclusion of Curtis Fuller on trombone. So we have trombonists on both of this month's records. I think in jazz generally, the trombone is a underappreciated instrument, and I always love to have records that have that trombone featured on there. So I think that was a great addition for both records this month to feature that trombone. Let's get into the music a little bit. So a lot of these tracks in here were arranged by Benny Golson. So you have a really good cohesiveness throughout. A lot of the tracks kind of, feel like they go together. There's definitely distinctiveness between the tracks, but the overall city lights vibe of this record is kind of created throughout, which I think is really well. It's a very cohesive album. It's not like one track is like super different and out there than the next track. So it's really enjoyable to listen to, and it all flows together very nicely. A couple of standouts on here is the opening and title track, City Lights. It starts out with this bow effect from Paul Chambers on bass. Normally, he's plucking the bass and not strumming, or sorry, not using the bow, which I really enjoyed that feature. I think it added kind of that city feel. And when that record kicked on, I was like, oh, I definitely get the city lights vibe they're going through. It felt very much like you could have been walking through the city late at night, and kind of as if you were in that. If you ever seen the Twilight Zone, they have those transition scenes when it's got like the lights between things, and it'll flash like different signs and whatnot late at night, kind of showcasing time passing. And I was like, that's kind of what I pictured in my head, which goes along with this cover as well. So I think that was definitely a highlight for me. Lee Morgan on here does a great job. He's not, his solos blend in really well with the rest of the band. So it's not like he's overpowering. He just really kind of blends in well as a leader. Has some standout solos throughout the whole thing, but isn't like domineering or overbearing, which I think is great, especially for a young player like that at the time. A couple other tracks on here I wanted to mention. Tempo de Waltz is interesting. It's got kind of a waltz time at first, which is unique. You don't hear a lot of jazz and waltz time. Not really my thing, but it was cool to listen to, and I think it added a lot on there. Obviously, waltz is kind of a city thing too. You don't really. I guess you got country waltz, but it makes me think of the city, so I thought that was cool as well. Your Mine You is a ballad with some great playing by Lee Morgan, and that's actually the same Your Mine You featured on Benny Green's Back on the Scene. It's the same same song, different arrangement, different players, of course. This one on here by Lee Morgan, Your Mine You, is a little bit more, I would say, lighter. It's still a ballad. It's still really beautiful. The other one on Benny Green's Back on the Scene is a little bit more solemn, a little bit slower, but they're both really cool tracks. So you can compare the two between this month's releases, which I think is awesome. And then on the B-side, you got Just By Myself and Kinfolks. You got some killer solos from the various artists on here throughout, and Kinfolks kind of wraps it up, ties the album together at the end, kind of recovers a lot of the themes, and it kind of gives through the solos on there by Lee Morgan, it kind of shows where he's going to go as he gets more rhythmic and continues to develop his voice on future records. So overall, I think this is a great record musically, and I think if you're a Lee Morgan fan, it's definitely a must-have. If you just a jazz fan in general, not necessarily a Lee Morgan fan, it's great to have, but not essential. So for that, I'm giving the music on this guy an 8 out of 10. I think there are better Lee Morgan records out there, but this is definitely a very solid offering, very enjoyable listen, and very well done record. And then in terms of approachability, again, similar to the other record, this is very approachable. You can put this on really in any time and enjoy it. It's got a good mix of music, but nothing that's gonna throw people off guard and say, what are you listening to? That's really out there. This is just a solid offering, some nice classic hard bop jazz. And then getting into value. So if you know anything about early pressing of Lee Morgan records, they are insanely expensive. I was looking at Discogs. An original of one of these guys in a VG condition goes for over $1,000. So this is much more affordable in that $30 to $38 range if you're buying this one, whether you're buying it on sale or at full price from the Blue Note store. It's much more affordable than that $1,000 price point. That being said, there are many reissues of this record coming from the late 60s, early 70s, coming from Japan in the early 2000s as well. And some of those can be a bit more affordable in then that $50 to $60 range. And a lot of the reissues did a better job of recreating this cover where you can actually see the artwork. So I want to give a few points to that as well. So overall, I'm giving value for this one an 8.5 out of 10. It's not impossible to find another reissue that may have a better presentation, but the music on here and the condition of this, I mean, it's fantastic. It sounds great. It's going to be hard to beat, Kevin Gray's remastering of this one right here. So where does that put us overall? For City Lights by Lee Morgan, I'm going 7.5 out of 10. Great record, great music, sounds fantastic. But I had to take a couple points off because you can't really see the cover, and I think that's really a highlight for a lot of these Blue Note records is being able to display and put on the shelf and check out those beautiful Reed Miles covers. And unfortunately, because of that manufacturing issue, you can't see the cover too well. So 7.5 out of 10 for that one. Hopefully you found that insightful as I reviewed these two records this month. If you agree or disagree with me, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And if there's any other videos you'd like me to make, just let me know down there as well. I'm always open to new ideas. Love talking about all different types of records from different genres outside of jazz too. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, good luck out there crate digging.